guys see that? There's a bunny in my garden. It's just sitting there. There he goes. I want to see where he leaves the garden and where he goes. Okay. He lives in the poison oak bush. And he's coming in through that cinder block. There's a hole right there. I bet that chicken's coming in there too. It doesn't matter if I plug that hole up. He'll just chew another hole in the fence because it's plastic. Good morning, it's November 20th, the frost is on the ground, and we are at the trial rows for my apple breeding project. If you're not familiar with this project, it's basically a project to breed new apple varieties from seed using intentional cross-pollinations, which means that I choose both parents, make the crosses, grow them out, get the fruit, and then see what kind of merit it has for further propagation, naming, distribution. Today we're going to taste some brand new of those apple varieties that have never been tasted before this year, and maybe a couple of ones I've tasted before, but am intrigued to see how they do this year. And let's start with black strawberry, which is one of the most intriguing apples I've grown from seed so far, and I noticed there's a couple fruits on there. This one has a pretty nice color, even though it was bagged. This is nearly black at times. This one looks darker. Actually, this one looks like it might be. Oh, look at that beauty. Oh my goodness. Oh wow. Yeah, so these would be much darker if they weren't bagged, I think. It's an extremely dark apple. A lot of apples don't seem to be developing their red flesh very well this year. Decisions. Oh, that's what I was afraid was going to happen. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pick this. This looks a little underripe, but we're going to try it anyway. Okay, here we go. We'll start with the red side. It's very underripe. So this isn't always like a deep pink fleshed all the way through apple. Last year, I think most of them were kind of mottled, but there's very little pink flesh this year. I see like a little bit right over here. Let's try that part. There's really barely any kind of like fruit berry flavor. Last year had a strong strawberry flavor. A lot of tannin in the skin, thick skin, kind of a coarse grainy texture. I would definitely eat this apple still. It actually has quite a bit of sugar, but it's a ghost of what it was last year. I'm guessing that larger apple there on the tree is much better, but I'm not sure it's at its best yet. So I'm gonna leave that one, rebag it, and let it hang for at least another week or two before I try it. Because I have a feeling that it's gonna ripen up a little bit more and develop more character. And then the third one that fell off the tree, I'll just put it in the fridge and hope it improves, but it probably won't. It's a pretty weird apple year. There's a lot of fruit that just isn't of the usual quality. I'm not really sure why, but it's not a very good apple year, both in terms of quantity and in terms of like just the quality of the apples I have harvested. But we'll see what else we can find here. All right, let's see if we can get some light on this. Here we go. Just pull off some of these leaves here. Okay, this is an apple I named last year, and I named it Sugarwood because it has like kind of a woody flesh. But it's very sweet, and I have a feeling this could make a good cider apple. I actually sent it out to a couple of people. I'll probably send it out to more people this year. I think I'm going to release this one into the world. It's pretty interesting looking apple. Look at this weird deep stem well, usually red stem, pleated bottom. It has a translucent look. Can you guys catch that? Definitely not an eating apple, you know, but let's eat it anyway. I think last year was its first year to produce, but it did produce again the second year, so that's a good sign. Ready? And this is a cross between WICKSON and GRENADINE. I said it's woody. So another thing I noticed about this apple is it seems to hang well, and I also have a feeling that it'll be able to be harvested over a pretty long period of time, which is really useful. This still tastes a little bit starchy. My general impressions, nice flavor, plenty of acid, a good little bit of tannin, so it's kind of got a little bit of everything you need for cider, and the flavor is actually pretty nice. So don't get me wrong, this is edible. It's just that it's a really woody flesh, so you're going to want to, spit the flesh out most likely. But it's probably going to press out like super clean. I have a feeling that when you press this, if it's ripe, even very ripe, it's going to press out like crystal clear juice. And it doesn't have so much tannin that it's inedible, not even close. It's not even tart, but it just has a really nice, good measure of acidity. The flavor is really nice, but will the flavor survive fermentation? I mean, that's always a big question. So I need to get this into the hands of a bunch of cider makers, get them to grow it out, fruit it enough to make batches a cider, test those single varietal ciders, and see what's up with it. Obviously, that's a long process, and who knows, maybe I'll make a miniature batch of cider out of this next year if it produces. But overall, I think we have a promising cider apple here with a cool name. So if it's November 20th now, I think we're going to make it at least till the beginning of December and probably beyond with hanging this on the tree and getting it nice and really ripe and getting the sugars all the way up. So I just found this specimen on the ground. It's much sweeter. Yeah, nice. Rich, strong flavor. And the acid is still there under the sugar. Nice, promising. All right, I spy a couple of apples here. I have a feeling this isn't ready yet. Well, since there's more fruits on the tree, let's try one of them. Oh yeah, that's still green. This is a Lady Williams cross, so it's going to be a real late apple. Oh, come on. Really? All right. You ready for this? It tastes like poop. First thing I got was like foamy flesh, then, okay, this is bitter, tannic, like drying in the mouth. Intense flavor though, like quite a bit of flavor. And then an afternote of poop. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm like, ew, what is that? Let me see if I get that again. Very tannic. No poop that time. We'll have to name this one Poop Cider. Okay, here's something that probably hasn't fruited before. It looks ripe. I'm going to try it. Okay, this looks like a WICKSON cross because it has that translucent look again. It's got the WICKSON coloring. It really looks like a cross between WICKSON and GRENADINE because it has the lobes, the big lobes. See that big nose sticking out there? Otherwise, it looks kind of like a WICKSON. Cross your fingers. You ready for this? I'm going to bite the nose off. So if you took a really average, like red striped tasting apple and made it as average as possible and then threw in a bunch of tannin and then an afternote of corn tortillas, you'd have this apple. Not very interesting. However, it still tastes pretty starchy, so it may not be ripe yet. Who knows, it might improve in other years. And that corn tortilla thing, I've tasted in other apples. I think it's just a thing that affects individual apples or apples in some years. I don't think it's going to be like a standard flavor in this apple, probably. Let's try this one. I notice right off that it has red stems, and the apple also has kind of a red stem. Everything seems to be ripening later this year, too, if it ripens at all. Well, another potential cider apple. This one also has a kind of a dry, woody flesh, but the juice comes out of it real easy. Nice flavor, and a lot of tannin. No pink flesh, though. Yeah. So my conclusion is that the juice of this variety is not good for inhaling. Yeah, I think this is going to make a great juice apple because it's really, again, it's got this like woody flesh, but it crushes up real easy actually and like lets go of its juice. And a good measure of tannin. Seems like there's plenty of sugar. Let's test the sugar on this one. Okay, here's how this works. This is a Brix refractometer. I always carry distilled water in there because this has to be calibrated for temperature. Like for instance, it's pretty chilly this morning. This was stored in a cold place, so it's going to be different than if it was stored in a warm room. Different than last time I used it probably. So put 1 drop of distilled water on here, and then I look through the eyepiece and calibrate it to 0. It's right about 0, so we're good. Probably the same temperature last time I used it, apparently. Of course, you want to get all the water off because the water will just dilute the juice that we're going to put on there to check the sugar level. So Brix is a measure of sugar that is roughly equal to percentage of sugar. So you can just say if it's 10 Brix, it's 10% sugar. See this? See what I'm saying? It's like real woody and firm and kind of crispy in a way, but it lets go of its juice really easy. Like some apples, I just have to like really work to get anything out of them. Give you guys a peek through here just in case it works. I don't think it will, but. So we're at 22. It's a lot of sugar. So this is GRENADINE Gold Rush 11.5. This is the 3rd year I've tasted this one. Yeah, it's the same as always. It's a nice, very competent yellow eating apple. It's actually really good. There's nothing spectacular about this apple, but it's always worth eating. And it's a good apple. It's a nice apple. Competent. It's a competent apple. And here things start to get interesting. Is this ready? I don't think it is. This is this really intriguing King David cross that I tasted only a single messed up apple of in 1 year. Look how red that is. Is this a King David cross? Yep, RUBAIYAT King David. So this looks a lot like King David, even though it's totally messed up with scab there. Whoa! Firm, crunchy, tart, not ripe. Very interested to see what this turns into later. You know, it just does not look ready as much as I want to taste it. This looks like the best specimen right here. But most of them haven't reddened up. This is usually a very red apple. This one has a bug in it, so let's just bite that one just for fun. I don't expect much out of this, but since it's buggy, it might be partially ripe. It's good. I can taste the King David. No red flesh. The first time I bit into this, an almost, black apple, small, this size, red flesh all the way through, like shot completely through the whole apple. Whoa! Now I'm not sure I'm seeing even a tint. Well, at least the quality is good. I have a feeling that this redder one right here will have red flesh, but it's not ready, so I'm going to wait for a while. So this is a usually greenish, yellowish apple with pink flesh. I can see some pink on this side, so it is going to have some pink flesh. It seemed more like a cooking apple last time I tasted it than anything else. Oh, it's soft. A bad, soft, overripe yellow apple. Let's try this one. I kind of feel like it's early for this apple still. So this one looks better. You can see the pink flesh developing here. Still nothing to write home about. It's almost sour, soft flesh, not a lot of flavor. All right, let's taste this, because this apple tasted very interesting last time I had it. This is GRENADINE crossed with Lady Williams 11-7. Unveil these. Well, I'm going to pick that one apparently. Good sized apple. Looks like it's got some cracked russet going here, lots of russet in the stem well, kind of patches of russet elsewhere, lopsided, very aromatic. Anyone that smelled this would want to eat it. You gotta smell the butt, and this butt smells good. Okay, ready? As far as the apples that I've picked out so far out of the trial rows that I think might make good cider apples, this is probably tops. It has a lot of tannin, not an edible amount, but it's up there. The flesh isn't awesome. This one's started to get a little bit soft, so it's not going to be like this beautiful crushing and pressing apple. By the way, I don't know how much that matters to people with modern equipment. But for like more primitive equipment, it makes a big difference if your apples don't turn to applesauce when you crush them up and try to press them. So that's not great, but the flavor is crazy intense. It tastes like artificial grape candy or juice. Wow. I don't know. Man, the flavor is intense. Just quantitatively, there's a heaping helping of flavor in there, and it's equivalent or past anything I've ever tasted in an apple. At least would match anything for just intensity of flavor. I don't think it's just grape. I think it might be like maybe watermelon candy and grape candy or a mix of stuff. I don't know what it is, but the finish seems to be mostly grape. Yeah, it might be watermelon and grape. I'm not really sure, or even more stuff than that. If that flavor can survive fermentation, there's also a good measure of acidity in this apple. Let's test the sugar, because I think the sugar might be on the low side. Survey says 20%. Well, that's nothing to scoff at. Okay, so this is one of the more promising cider apples for sure. I need to name this thing and get it out to you guys out there who are cider makers to grow out and test single varietal ciders. I have a feeling this intense fruit flavor is going to survive the fermentation process and that this is going to make an amazing cider. That is my prediction. We will find out some years down the road. I may start making small, really miniature like cider batches just to test out apples like in mason jars and stuff like that. So maybe we'll find out sooner than later, but there's a good chance it's going to take a while to assess this completely. So a whole bunch of this row right here, these smaller trees on the right, should fruit next year, hopefully. Here's an apple that's been consistently boring, disappointingly so, because it's such a nice looking apple. It's real productive. Grows a lot of nice big fruit. Let's see if it's disappointing this time. Yeah. I suspect this could make a really good applesauce because it's very sprightly. It's got like a bracing, refreshing acidity and like a really clean flavor. There's not a lot of flavor, but you know, like when you eat applesauce, a good applesauce should be really sprightly and bright flavored. And you don't really expect that from a mushed up, cooked product, you know. But when you eat really good applesauce, you're like, wow, I forgot applesauce could be really good. And I have a feeling, like maybe with a little bit of sugar, but that this could make good applesauce. So I'm going to pick all of these and maybe make a small batch of miniature batch of applesauce. Yeah, it's very juicy too. Look at that nice foliage. I don't think this one is ever fruited yet. So here's not LAXTONS Epicure Grenadine 12.4. So not LAXTONS Epicure means that it's an apple that is labeled as not LAXTONS Epicure, but I don't think it is because I looked it up. This is the apple I said in the last video. I was like, surprise me, and it did. It really surprised me. Let's try this. This is not LAXTONS Epicure with grenadine. And I do not expect it to be good. Surprise me. Whoa. Wow, intense flavor. Wow. That is intense flavor. Lots of sugar, intense flavor. Thick skin, lots of tannin. I mean, everything in this row has higher than usual tannin because it's mostly dry farmed. Same goes with the high sugar. Let's try this one here. Definitely some banana in that one. Quite a bit of banana. Interesting. Well, after the grape apple, this definitely doesn't taste as intensely strong, but it does have a really rich, very, very rich, intense, fruity flavor. Lots of tannin though, thick skin, dry flesh, not a great flesh texture. Overall, not a lot to recommend for eating, but it could make an interesting cider apple, again, especially if those flavors survive fermentation. Okay, so last time I was here, somewhere right along here on the ground, I found this apple, and I tasted it in my last video, but I saved part of it so we could taste it again. Okay, wait, what's this? Oh, I did not label it. Drats. It feels soft. Hopefully it's not mealy. Whatever it is, let's try it. Okay. Okay, very interesting. It's squishy. It's wrinkly on the skin here. It's definitely squishy. Can you see it? Can you see how squishy it is? Can you see how squishy it is? And it's not mealy at all. It's crisp / rubbery. This is a weird one. Very good flavor, very sweet. So it's likely to be one of the following. There's no tag on this one. Oh no, there is a tag there. Cherry Cox RUBAIYAT. Not LAXTONS Grenadine 12.3, not LAXTONS Grenadine 12.5. Those are the most likely ones, unless it was all the way over here. I'm confused. The truth is, I'm just not going to know what it's from because I didn't mark it. Let's taste it. So as you can see in the highlights that I just played of picking this apple the first time, the things I noticed right away are the squishiness, like how it was squishy, but it wasn't mushy or soft at all. Part of this, like half of this is still like on the kind of just crispy and crunchy side. And then the part that's a little softer, like on the other side, maybe the sun side, is crisp, crunchy, and rubbery all at the same time, which is just odd, but it's really actually fun to eat. So what I mean by crisp versus crunchy or crisp and crunchy is like it has that crisp bite of like crushing fine cells, but when you're biting it, you can feel and hear the crunch of it breaking up into big chunks. And then those chunks just keep getting smaller and smaller as they release juice. So it actually makes it kind of a fun apple to eat. It has a little bit of pink flesh, not a lot of pink flavor. Maybe there's like a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if this does very different in different years because this is an odd year. The flavors are mild, especially after some of these really intense flavored apples I've tasted, but not at all uninteresting, not generic, maybe like a combination of fruit and vanilla. Lots of sugar, low acid. Well, overall, it's very intriguing. I'm really looking forward to assessing this further as the years go by. I'm already pretty sure this one's going to be worth naming, but we'll see. I don't even know which tree it came from. Okay, here we have not LAXTONS Epicure with Grenadine 2013, it says here, and then it says 13.1 crossed out and then 12.1, so I don't know what's up with that. But this looks intriguing. It's very pretty. It's very red. It fell off very easy. Yeah, isn't that pretty? Let's try it. Overripe, mealy, sweet. It's not a bad flavor, but it's generic. Looks like we need to catch that one a lot earlier. Who knows, maybe when it's less ripe. Here's an example of an apple that was red fleshed last year, but it's not this year, or barely. See, nothing. I think I tasted a couple of these earlier and they weren't good. Okay. Sink water with a little onion and some sugar added and some chemicals. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, I'm naming that one dishwater. Here's a chestnut crab grenadine cross that very much resembles grenadine in some ways. Looks like a quince on the bottom. Certainly not what I was hoping for from this cross. There might be a hint of dishwater in this one too. It's hard, but it's not that crisp. Bitter, literally, and tannic. Well, it has flavor, but none of the flavor is good. It may perform very different in different years, ripen different, taste completely different. We'll see, but at this point, it definitely does not look promising. Several promising cider apples, but literally promising cider apples, not just like, oh, we could put this in the cider because it sucks. The most interesting of which is the grape flavored apple. I need to get a name for that one for sure. I'll be working on that. Sugarwood, which already has a great name. And those two I need to get out to cider makers, so I'll be having those almost for sure in the web store this year, unless I have some kind of change of heart in the meantime and decide to keep them for some reason. The pink rubber apple, there's an unappetizing name for you. Very intriguing. Looking forward to testing that one more, especially because of the very intriguing, odd, fun to eat texture. The other intense flavored surprise me apple, and the specimens on that tree don't look very good, so culturally it looks like it could be a problem apple. I'm thinking more along the lines of cider with that one as well. My taste buds are totally shot after those really intense apples, all the different apples, the sugar, and then these two dishwater apples at the end here. I have a feeling that these will start to put out a lot more apples next year, especially this row up here, which is kind of in between this row and the other rows on the other side that are really big over there. My prediction for next year is like maybe 70 plus seedling apples are going to fruit, most of which have already fruited, but I get to taste them again. Sometimes I only get one apple. They're not exemplary for various reasons, and let's hope for a good bloom season next year. Show you the foliage on this one. This is a maypole cross, so it's going to have the intense, red flesh gene. Almost certainly this apple's going to be just red through. Look at the stems. The big stems are red.